In chapter 100 of Njáls saga, the main story is put on hold for some time, while an account is given of the conversion of Iceland. The conversion and the events that lead up to it are mentioned in many of the Icelandic sagas, but no saga spends as much space describing it as Njáls saga. In fact, the Christianization episode, or Kristni þáttur of Njáls saga, is one of our primary sources of these events. King Ólafur sends a missionary called Þangbrandur to Iceland. Þangbrandur's mission was successful to some extent. He baptized a number of chieftains, but it was his violent approach that brought him down in the end. He was forced to leave the country after killing 2 or 3 men, and it wasn't until after Þangbrandur departure that a peaceful conclusion was reached at the Althing, where it was finally decided that the whole country should become Christian. Sian Gronley, Associate Professor at St. Anne's College, Oxford, has written extensively on the conversion of Iceland. I asked her about the various sources we have of the event. How unanimous are they? Aren't there some differences between them?
Yeah, there are some differences. The account of Þangbrandar's mission in Njáls saga is closely related to the account of his mission in Kristni saga, which is from the mid-13th century. And in the Kristni þættir in Ólafs saga Tryggvasonar and Mesta, and the best-known manuscript of that is Flateyjarbók. And then for the events at the Althing in the year 999 or 1000, the author of Njáls saga draws on Ari's Íslendingabók and on the beginning of the Christian code in Grágás. So this section of Njáls saga does have written sources. It does have very specific sources. And I think all of these accounts of the conversion have different identities. So Ari's Íslendingabók, for example, is closest to the events itself. It's the earliest source on the conversion. Ari was writing in around 1130. He stands very close to people that were present at the conversion itself. So his main source is Teitur Isleifsson. He's the grandson of Gizur the White. He's a character in Njáls saga. And Ari also tells us that his foster father, Hallurinn Haukadalur, remembered being baptised by Þangbrandur when he was 3 years old. So that's a really remarkable link to have between Ari and the events of the conversion themselves. And Njáls saga also mentions the baptism of Hallur. Kristni saga is very much a self-contained history. And it covers the history of the church from the very first missionary up until the first 2 Icelandic bishops. So it's very much historical in character. And then the þættir are different again. There's much more interest in the Kristni þættir in the spiritual meaning of events. There are many more signs and miracles, and there's an attempt to sort of discover the interior meaning of events themselves and the divine agency at work in conversion. So the Kristni þættir are much more expansive about the events of Þangbrandar's mission, for example.
But the general tendency of scholars is, or has been, that Ari is the most reliable one. Not because he's the closest to the events, but also because he's kind of precise. He's not describing long, it's pretty short and realistic in a way.
Yes, I mean, it does come across as realistic, and that's perhaps because there is no supernatural agency in Ari's account, which is one of the things that actually makes it stand out as a conversion narrative. Most conversion narratives convey in some way the role of the divine in the conversion, and the only thing you have in Ari that comes anywhere close to that is Þorgeir lying under his cloak, where for 24 hours you don't know what's going on. And that part is very much hidden from us, what's going on in Þorgeir as he tries to make this decision about what law to proclaim. So I think, yes, Ari chimes with our expectations of a historical text more perhaps than the other sources do. On the other hand, Ari is also very, very selective. So there's an awful lot he doesn't tell us, What he's giving us is the tradition of a single family, the Haukdælir, as to how the conversion took place. He doesn't tell us anything about earlier missions. He doesn't tell us anything about Celtic Christianity in Iceland. He mentions that Thangbrand killed 2 or 3 men in the course of his mission, but he doesn't give us any details. He must have known more than he tells us. So I think in a way, Ari's realism is slightly deceptive, because it depends not only on the information he gives us, but also what he chooses to withhold. A lot of people think that the Kristni Thatar Njáls saga is very much a self-contained narrative, you know, that it has its own character that's different from the rest of the saga. And it's certainly true, I think, that when you sort of enter into the conversion in Njáls saga, you're entering into a different world. You know, you're entering into the world of the saint's life, the world of hagiography, with the Christian supernatural, and so on. And that's true, I think, to an extent. But also the aspects of the conversion that the author of Njáls saga is most interested in are actually the saga-like aspects of Thangbrand's character and of his mission. So, you know, these violent combats with pagan poets, the shipwrecks. Thangbrand is a very mixed character. He's not at all as saintly as you might expect a missionary to be. So I think, although the Kristni Thatar Njáls saga does have its own distinctive character, it's also still very much part of the saga.
Now,